Welcome to our third video entitled, What a Bayesian Approach Tells Us. One of the first questions we often get is, how do you report results in a paper if you're using a Bayesian approach? And a main point here is that reviewers seem to like a comparison between a frequentist approach and a Bayesian approach. And that's a simple thing to do. With regard to the actual Bayesian output that we show, typically it's the interval estimates, the posterior distribution, and you can also provide a table with numbers and parameters that make the results a little more comparable to frequentist statistics. And this just seems to make people more comfortable to see those things side by side. And many of the statistics that you'll get will be similar. You'll be able to see, yes, this is a look at the same data. And if you're using Bayesian for hypothesis testing, then of course you would want to show the posterior distributions that help to explain the test of that hypothesis. And again, you're explaining to the reader, this is the most likely outcome, and this is how that probability of that outcome is distributed. And then, of course, you offer your arguments as to how and to what extent these results support your hypothesis or fail to support a hypothesis. Now, here we see a graphic of the interval estimates of the individual firms. This is simply the intercepts. And then here you see the similar output for selling units and for financial restructuring. You could look through that and see that some firms seem to do very well by financial restructuring while other firms don't, which is exactly what you would expect, especially looking through a resource-based view lens. Now, you've seen this slide before. This is a posterior distribution for all firms in the sample, showing how, as a whole, all 42 firms perform with regard to the strategic actions that we've measured. And here you see the same thing, a posterior distribution for firm 22. Now you could show this for every firm. I would suggest putting that in an appendix, but you can show how every firm did on every parameter in the model. Now, in conclusion, one of the great things about a Bayesian approach, you can do a pooled regression that will look very similar to an OLS regression, or you can do a hierarchical regression that allows you to look at individual firms, individual industries, even individual CEOs, if you had that kind of data. And again, we would point out that the main output is the posterior distribution. Notice that in a Bayesian analysis, there are no arbitrary cutoffs or thresholds. You simply lay the facts out there and allow the reader to draw their conclusions. Always reminding the reader that, of course, they're looking at actual probabilities given the observed data. Also, it's important to remember that the RBV is largely a theory of outliers. Why do some firms do better than others? And so a statistical approach like Bayesian statistics makes a lot of sense, as opposed to a frequentist approach, which is based on averages. Now, in conclusion, I would just say that Bayesian statistics are growing in popularity. They're used in a lot of different places. When you make a purchase online, most online retailers will suggest something else to you. They're making those suggestions based on Bayesian statistics. As you can see, we're big proponents of a Bayesian approach. It makes a lot of sense and helps to answer a lot of research questions, both for practitioners as well as for academicians. Thank you very much for your interest. We hope that you've enjoyed these videos. We hope that you watch the other videos in the PDW and that you too will become a proponent of Bayesian statistics. Thank you very much.